Today on the podcast, I have Katie from Ottawa, Canada joining us. Katie, it's good to have you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So, what is it that you want to talk to me about today?
Okay, so my question is about finding a healthy balance between telling our feelings where to go versus acknowledging and validating our feelings and not burying them. I know for myself, I often have this tug of war between my emotional thoughts and my rational thinking, and I was just wanting your help in navigating those opposing perspectives in a healthy way.
Yeah, that's a really good question because you can hear two different stories, right? On one
Yeah,
hand, we talk about how important feelings are and how they're a signal and they're revealing of certain things. On the other hand, you've heard me say that feelings can't always be trusted in the sense that feelings are real, but they're not always telling us the truth.
yeah.
So what's the balance there? Um, Let me ask you this. Do you have any times in your life where you had a feeling and you weren't quite sure if you should believe it or follow it or should you ignore it? Like, do you have anything specific that comes to mind of a time when you kind of struggled to know?
Um, I feel like this question applies to a lot of different situations. I think when the question popped into my mind, it was in relation to a relationship that I was considering um, entering into. And so, um, yeah, I think more specifically, then it was, acknowledging that this person that I was interested in dating is a good person and has a good heart and there was a lot of good in that in the potential of that relationship, but also there may have been some compatibility issues. And because I have been single for so long, um, I've had other people speak to me and say that I'm too picky or I'm not giving guys a fair chance. And so I was really battling in my mind whether what other people are saying is true about me or whether my instincts are correct.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think that's something that so many people struggle with.
yeah,
There's so many different inputs, people telling us different things, different ideas, different thoughts, interpreting things for us, and it can be hard to navigate. So, what did you end up doing in that particular situation? I'm curious.
well, because I had been single for so long, I decided to take other people's advice. And I realized after a few months that it really just wasn't working for me. And so my instincts were correct initially.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a really good example because sometimes what it takes is time
yeah,
to figure out what is going on. So, feelings are always revealing something. The question is, what is that thing that they're revealing, right? So I put it this way, feelings are a signal. They're always a signal of something. So
hmm,
let's say you're in a relationship. You start dating somebody. Let's say you go on a few dates and you're starting to have a lot of anxiety. Anxiety through the roof. It's like, I'm feeling so anxious about this. Well, that feeling is legitimate. But the question is, what is that feeling telling you? What is that signal telling you? And I think our issue often is a misinterpretation of what the feeling is telling us. So it's not the feeling that's wrong or bad, it's our interpretation of what that feeling is telling us that can be
yeah,
skewed. So anxiety on a date can mean a couple things. Number one, it could mean that you're sensing some things in this relationship that are not a good match for you. And you're feeling the pressure like, oh, I don't think this is a good match. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling concern, and it's all kind of bubbling up, and I'm not feeling joyful. I'm not feeling peaceful. I'm not enjoying this process. I don't really want to go. So your feeling of anxiety could be that there is something off in the relationship, right? That could be one sign of anxiety in a relationship. Let's do situation number 2, where you're on a date and you're feeling a lot of anxiety. But this time, the anxiety could be telling you something different. Maybe you're feeling anxious and you're like, I don't know. Is he even going to like me? I don't know. I'm not sure if he's going to like me. I don't even know if I'm good enough for this person. I don't know if I look good enough. I don't know my body. I don't like my hair. I'm just so in scenario number 2, the anxiety could be signaling fears in you. Maybe you're thinking, what if he rejects me? What if he doesn't like me? What if I end up abandoned and hurt like the last 5 dates I went on? And so your body is signaling danger, danger, anxiety, anxiety, because of something inside of you. There's fear inside of you. There's issues from the things that you have experienced, past rejection, and it's starting to come back up, right? So both cases are anxiety, but in situation A, it's anxiety because the relationship isn't a good match. In situation B, it's anxiety because you have fears from the past and you don't want them to repeat. So what's interesting is that in both cases, the anxiety is signaling something. But in the first case, it's signaling, hey, be cautious. In the second case, it's signaling, hey, you need to heal something. There's something going on in here and you need to heal it or you're never going to be able to go on dates, right?
Yeah.
So in our mind, we think, well, the anxiety in the first scenario is accurate, but the anxiety in the second scenario isn't accurate. But really, they're both accurate. They're just signaling different things, right? And the second scenario is what we would call a false alarm. It's signaling anxiety. It's telling you you're not safe, but really it's a false alarm because there's no fire, there's no danger, but it's still signaling, which means you need to address the fact that this alarm is going off. Why is this alarm going off? It's going off because there's something in me that needs to be addressed and paid attention to and healed. I need to work on something.
Yeah.
And so I think if you go into it with that mentality that my emotions are always telling me something, and I have to figure out what it is they're telling me, you won't go wrong.
Right.
Because whether or not it's a real alarm and there's a real fire, or whether there's no fire, but the alarm is going off, you still have to address the alarm and figure out, is the alarm broken and it's falsely firing in situations that it shouldn't be? Or is there something going on here that I actually need to address and make sure I keep myself safe? Is there a real fire? Or is the alarm just broken and I have to address the alarm? In either case, you have to respond to the emotion and not just ignore it and pretend it's not happening. So let's say you're on a date and you're starting to feel all those feelings of fear again. Oh no, I don't know if this is the right fit. I don't know if this is a good match for me. But as you get to know this person, you realize, you know what? He's a really good guy. And we seem to have a lot in common. And we are headed towards the same goals in life. And we have great personality, chemistry. We're getting along really well. And then all of a sudden those feelings come back. Danger, danger, danger. Well, that doesn't mean that the situation is dangerous. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't move forward in the relationship. Maybe that means you have to take some time and address your fears of rejection and abandonment and all of those things that might be coming up in you. So do you see how in either case the feeling needs to be addressed? It just is, it looks really different from one scenario to the next.
Yeah, I think in my case, the aspect of me that still needs healing is that I run from conflict. I fear being in a situation where there's conflict, and I think that has really held me back from relationships in the past. And so when I was considering dating this guy, I thought about that and wanted to push those fears of conflict away, um, and kind of ignored the other side of it, where it's just not the right relationship in this instance. But yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. In your case, there were two things to address
Yeah,
because you didn't know for sure that it wasn't the right relationship without having had a date, right? You
exactly.
can't
Yeah,
always just guess. So the first hurdle was silencing the fears, realizing, okay, these are false alarms because I'm afraid of conflict and I don't want to have to tell him, I'm sorry, this isn't a good fit. So I'd rather not go. You had to silence that part of you to overcome the first hurdle and just go on the date. But then the next part of you, when you did find out it wasn't a good match and those anxieties came up again, it was like, okay, now I have to deal with part two, which is I have to face my fear of
yeah,
confrontation and conflict and actually tell this person this isn't the right fit for me. And that's hard for you.
yeah. And after that relationship ended, I almost like validated my feeling of wanting to run.
Right.
So
Because you
there,
told yourself, see, I knew from the beginning I
yeah,
shouldn't have even gone on this
yeah.
date.
And
But
so
really, it was actually a step in the right direction of you facing your fear and allowing yourself to see for yourself, to assess the facts. You have to remember, Katie, that dating is a season of investigation. It's not a season of intimacy. It's a season of investigation. And so if you're going into a date with the goal of investigating and try to figure out this person, get some questions answered, figure out what they're all about, um, then there's no commitment because you're not committing to intimacy. You're just committing to investigating. And that feels very different than intimacy.
Mhm.
And so even your mentality needs to shift so that you're not going into these dates with this high level fear of conflict and confrontation because you're not really confronting anything. You're just addressing the fact that you've gathered some data and it's not the best match. And it was really great getting to know you. And thank you so much for your time and so long. Why do you think conflict and confrontation is such a big deal to you? Why is that so difficult for you specifically?
um, I think because there was a lot of it in my home growing up, um, specifically with my mom. And so, yeah, it's just, it was this power dynamic where I was always, I don't know, pushed down. So, um, I just kind of ran and buried that. And I don't know.
Yeah. Do you feel that the message that you got was that anytime there's a disagreement or conflict or things don't work out, someone has to get pushed down?
Um, I don't find that in friendships or other areas, but I did find that um at with my mom.
So do you think that part of your fear of conflict is not wanting to inflict that on someone else?
No, I feel that the fear is not wanting to experience it again for myself.
That maybe someone will have to inflict that upon you.
Yeah.
So you trust yourself that you're not going to hurt somebody in that way,
Yeah.
but you don't trust that somebody's not going to hurt you in that way.
Yeah.
So what is your biggest fear when you're on a date? That they're going to hurt you in the end?
Um, I don't know. I don't think so. It's just the feeling in general that I just don't want to experience. And I feel that I've done enough um, work on my mental health that I can overcome that. But to put myself in that situation to begin with is just not something I want to do. I don't, does that make sense?
Well, what's the situation? The situation being that somebody could potentially hurt me.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess, yeah, you know what? I think it is that because I'm familiar with my singleness, it's comfortable and familiar, and it's the safest place for me to stay.
Because when there's nobody else in the picture, you don't have to really worry about how somebody else is going to handle your heart.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
I don't have
safer
to
that way.
worry about, um, I don't have to worry about getting hurt or feeling stressed or, um, yeah,
But on the flip side, you also miss the opportunity to encourage and
yeah,
edify and be encouraged and edified. Um,
yeah,
Thessalonians says that we are to encourage and edify one another. And
yeah,
I love that verse, and I think we should apply it to the way we date. Like if I'm really just there to learn about you, investigate,
yeah,
to encourage and edify you and give you the opportunity to encourage and edify me as my brother in Christ,
yeah,
then no matter how this turns out, we're going to win
yeah.
because we've had
Yeah,
the
it's
opportunity to encourage each other.
yeah, I it's good. It's interesting that you say that because after that relationship ended, that's when I really decided that I needed to dig in and work on myself, and that's actually when I discovered your podcast and and just kind of dove in and realized, there's a lot that I gained from that relationship, even though it didn't work out. And I learned a ton and I realized things about myself that I didn't know before. And it was overall a beneficial experience.
I love that. I think that's such a great perspective and begins to rewrite the narrative.
Yeah.
The more information you bring in, the the more different your emotions are going to respond and react because they have new data.
Hmm.
So whereas before your body might say danger, danger, conflict, confrontation, with this new data, now your body might say, well, it actually wasn't that dangerous last time because I ended up learning and growing and becoming a better version of me. And with that new data, that false alarm that we talked about earlier starts to
Hmm.
get a little bit less loud with each interaction. It's like,
Hmm.
wait a second. Maybe that's actually my childhood fears, not my present day fears.
Yeah.
And the last experience was better. And we start to rewrite the template of what our body reacts to and doesn't react to. And so the healthier we get, the less we hear those false alarms. And that's the beauty of the work of psychological, emotional, relational healing. That's the beauty of the work of going back to silence some of those alarms that are coming from things from our childhood and rewriting the narrative, giving our body new data so that it responds more appropriately to what we're
Hmm.
experiencing in the present. And every time we get those triggers, it's often God saying, hey, this alarm is going off and you need to pay attention to it
Hmm.
because there's some deeper healing that I want to do in this area of your life. So I guess at the end of the day, no matter what the emotion, the answer is pay attention to it because it's probably telling you something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm proud of you. This is a really great journey. Have you read my book, True Love Dates, yet?
I have, yes.
Wonderful. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good one to have in your back pocket during this season.
Yeah.
reminding you that as you get healthier, you start to attract healthier, engage with healthier, and recognize much sooner what's not a good match for your life. So
Yeah.
keep that in your back pocket. Keep reminding yourself of the process of dating inward first, and then what that looks like to date outward and date upward, and invite God into this process as well. But I think you're doing a really great job of recognizing the real alarms from the false alarms, and ultimately paying attention to the signals that God brings your way, and then responding to each one as they come.
Yeah.
Good luck on
Thank
this
you.
dating journey. You're gonna have to
Thank you
keep me
so
posted.
much. Nothing new to report so far.
Well, here's to a great year of dating in 2024.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. It was so nice to meet you.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.